Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy. Obviously, the first half of the season went really well. I think in the second half, I went to a stretch there where I took a lot of games, kind of got tired. And when you get tired, you start trying to recreate what you had previously, right? And then you kind of create bad habits. So obviously created some bad habits, didn't perform well, and then got COVID, and then was sitting down for 10 days, then 2 weeks, didn't get to pitch in the game. Come back, and then we only have a couple of weeks before the postseason. So definitely an unfortunate situation, but trying to build on that and kind of take the negatives and improve on those moving into this year.
What did you learn about that experience?
That baseball is a very humbling game. So you can't ride the waves in this game. It's going to eat you alive if you do. So you got to kind of stay as flat and neutral as possible, take it day by day, and know that one of the beautiful parts about this game is you always have a chance to go out there the next day and perform, since we play every day. So like I said, we're gonna work and improve on that, try and get rid of the second half hiccups that had kind of been historical in my career. And that'll be working with the coaching staff, the pitching staff, teammates, trainers, strength coaches, and put together a good plan for this year.
Do you feel it's realistic for you to be the closer again?
Yes.
You had closed before,
Yep.
but not as long and not as well as you did in the first half.
Right.
What did you learn about that role that maybe you'd only seen glimpses of doing it for shorter periods?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I took away from that, and I think maybe not that it got me in trouble, but there's a sense of responsibility that I felt like I took on that necessarily I didn't have to have before, whether it was Koji or Craig or even Workman in 19, right? This sense of that when all else fails, I can't, and I have to be the stopper at the back end, whether it's in skids or just in a winning streak to continue pushing that forward. So I don't think from a performance aspect or kind of whether the ninth was different than the seventh or the eighth, that to me wasn't much different, but it was that added sense of responsibility, knowing that you are the backstop, that honestly you kind of take a lot of pride in.
Matt, how much of your focus is on pace? Last year at the beginning when you worked quickly, you worked well, and then you kind of slowed down at the end. How much do you want to get back to that rapid pace that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been working on it for a couple of years and really kind of got a good handle on it last year. I think one of the biggest things was kind of having this established game plan with Vasky, knowing I think sometimes earlier in my career and years prior to last year, I kind of got into a overthinking match of trying to outsmart somebody or try to do too much or thinking about sequences. And listen, I've been playing with Vasky for 10 years now, right? So I just put a lot more faith into him. Not that I didn't have the faith before, but I kind of gave the reins over to him on pitch calling, which in turn allowed me to just to kind of work faster and just attack hitters with what he was seeing. The hard part is, like, you're not going to see every pitch from the bullpen, right? And even if you do watch every pitch, you can't tell where they are. It's kind of harder to analyze some swings because you're 350, 400 feet away, right? So there's things that the catchers are going to see in a game, whether a guy's taking a bad hack at something, he's not seeing a certain pitch well. So it's relying on them more in that aspect of how the flow of the game is going. And doing that, I think, allowed me to work quicker where I could just get the ball, attack guys, and let's move. When you start getting deliberate, the hitter has more time to think, what have you thrown? What are we trying to do here? What might he come with next? As opposed to staying on the aggression. So tempo is definitely huge.
With the short in spring training, do you figure you'll be ready for opening day?
Oh, absolutely. One of the, I don't want to say nice things about having gone through that COVID year, because there really weren't many nice things about playing under a global pandemic for obvious reasons, right? But we had to learn how to get ready in 3 weeks. So we've kind of gone through that process already. I think I've told you guys a number of times, if I throw in 8-9 games, the first 4, I really don't take much stock in the results, right? It's just about getting out there, seeing hitters feeling good. We just eliminate those 4 now, right? So it's when we get out there only having 5 or 6 games before the opening day, it's all right, we're just going to go right away. It's kind of, we don't have time to sit around and try and feel stuff out. You got to go out there, and now it's going to be the first time that we face hitters in a game in 5 months. So in game one, am I probably going to take stock in how the season goes? No, but everything is just kind of condensed and kind of compressed in that nature. So that's kind of the long answer, but yes, we'll be ready.
How many times have you been off the mound at this point?
15. So
Have you faced hitters anywhere? Or
have not, no. Nope.
You, how many times do you think you would need to do that? If you guys are playing Thursday, I know you're not going to play Thursday, but
Yep.
how many times do you think you need to see hitters before you get into a game?
I think I'm only seeing hitters once, I think is the plan right now. So, yeah, I mean, I've been trying to simulate hitters as much as possible. Whether it's, we've got that mannequin thing that we stick in there to kind of see a visual of a hitter in the box, or whether it's just letting the catcher call and we kind of are mixing pitches and working on locating stuff. I mean, it's obviously going to be a little bit different once you have hitters in the box, but in a normal spring training, we typically only see hitters twice before we get into a game. So I think for me, it's more important that arm strength is there. Knowing that I don't have to go 5, 6, 7 innings and try and work through sequences and hitters multiple times. I've always kind of believed that as long as my arm strength is there and I can get 5 or 6 games, I'll be good to go.
How did you, you had some very high highs for your career last year, on and off the field,
Yep.
and some lows that you've never experienced before.
Right.
How did you sort of handle that, the emotional swings of that over a short period of time?
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, the first half was awesome. I got to a point where, you didn't really think about much. You just took the ball, and I was fortunate enough to be in a great spot where everything just kind of worked, right, in attacking the guys. In the second half, I mean, it was obviously kind of a nightmare. But you take it day by day. I mean, we continued to work. I mean, I have great teammates and coaching staff behind me who were encouraging me. We were looking at everything from analytical to Kinetrax to spin rate. I mean, you name it, we were doing it, right? Trying to figure out, comparing the first half to the second half. I mean, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it was tough going from the level that I was at to not even making a postseason roster initially, right? So, but I think in everything that we do, you don't ever get to improve unless you experience tough times, right? Nobody improves just by being great all the time. You don't learn anything that way. So while it was an incredibly unfortunate situation, and sucks that I wasn't able to be out there to help the guys that have kind of been putting in this work with me for 8 months at that point, you kind of learn from it, move on, and we're in a new year now. So trying to put that behind me and continue to move in. I mean, I think that's one of the nice things that I've been able to do in my career is anything that's happened the year before me. I mean, what happened in August, September last year has absolutely no stock in what's going to happen in April. They're 7 months apart. You sit down and you don't play catch for a month and a half. You don't face hitters or get off the mound for 3 months after that. Sometimes that's the best solution, right? Is you kind of evaluate it, you think about it, and then just sitting down, the body kind of naturally corrects and gets you back into the good habits that you typically have. So definitely excited to get back out there.
How did you find the player rep experience to be throughout the course of the lockout and the resolution last week?
Very informative. I thought, I think I talked to Alex last week and told him Nick Pivetta actually did almost every call in the offseason. So he had come up to me and really wanted to be involved in everything. So I kind of handled in season when we were doing calls. I handled all of those and kind of helped Nick kind of learn the ropes or bring him along in the process. And then Nick ended up taking over a lot of the actual calls during the offseason. And then him and I with a couple other guys would kind of hop on a call afterwards, talk through it, get thoughts. I mean, it's a lot of work and it was very informative, but I think everybody on this team and in the union stayed strong and kind of stayed really together throughout the entire process.
Are you there was kind of that split, right, where the executive committee, most of the guys on there did not, voted to not approve the deal. The rank and file did. But what do you make of that, and what was the general reaction of your teammates to the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the beautiful parts about this country is that in all aspects of things, it's a democracy, and not everybody's going to agree on everything in a deal, right? So some guys may have liked 90% of it, but 10% of it they didn't like enough to vote yes. and I don't know that for sure. I'm just right. That's just speculation. I think overall both sides were able to accomplish and make strides in areas that they liked. And I mean, there's right. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of give and take in this system. So, I think everybody did a really good job of communicating the information to everybody in the league and all their teammates. And ultimately, the majority of the guys voted to get one done. So.
Matt, at any point during the process, were you concerned that a large portion of the season might be missed?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody was at some point, right? I think anybody who said they weren't concerned about that would probably be lying to you. But it's kind of the nature of the business, right? We're very fortunate now that we were able to get one done. Applaud not only the union but the owners for continuing to stay at the table even when it seemed like something might not get done for months. Applaud both of them for the willingness and kind of the drive to stay at the table and continue to talk. And the fact that we can get 162 games in, I think, is a huge win for the sport.
Now, what you do during the lockout to stay sharp so that once you got back here with everybody, it wasn't day zero for you?
Yeah, I mean, we went through the normal routine in Connecticut, obviously, up until the new year. And then down here, having Sale get us hooked up at Florida Gulf Coast and being able to use the training room there and the weight room there and being on a field and, frankly, being around some of the other guys in the team, just playing catch with them, throwing bullpens, I think that was invaluable. That was incredible for us to have that opportunity. So I think you kind of combine all of that stuff with the experience of having to go through something similar in 2020 where you don't know when you're going to start, how much time you're going to have to get ready, where you're going to be. I think kind of drawing on that, plus the opportunity we had down here with those facilities, I think made it relatively easy.
You mentioned the second half of last season was a nightmare for you. Is there something that now is informing your approach as you get into this year to maybe be able to be more consistent from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did. I'm going to continue to have an open line of communication with the training room, all the coaching staff, put together a process, right? I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. It's kind of been a trend, right? The first half has historically been pretty good in my career, and then that August has been kind of terrible, and then September's better, right? So we got to kind of go to the drawing board and figure out, why does that happen? Is it volume? Is it something we have to change in the weight room? Is it conditioning stuff? Is it, I don't know, right? So we're going to sit down. We're going to have a game plan for that. How do we adjust? And maybe it's not just August. Maybe it's something we change in April, May, and June. Maybe, So we'll get together. We'll figure out a plan, and then kind of go from there. I mean, first and foremost, probably not getting COVID will probably help. So hopefully we're past that, and we can at least eliminate one of those factors relatively easy.
Now, did the stuff with the baseball affect you at all last Saturday? Did you kind of change the rules on the pitchers in the middle of the season and just have it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was terrible, honestly. I don't know that I had a hard time gripping the baseball. The only thing for me that I didn't necessarily agree with, right? I mean, the league has the right and has had the right to do that whenever they want, right? I mean, that's kind of the rule on the book. They just chose to start enforcing it, right? The only thing that I had an issue with was the timing of when they did it. I wish that they had done it entering the season, or had been like, hey, after this season, this is what it's going to be moving forward. So guys had 3 or 4 months to get used to it, as opposed to just saying, hey, on this day, it's gone and you can't do anything. And guys have been doing whatever they were doing for 6, 7, 8 years. That to me is just a drastic kind of change on the whim in the middle of the season. So, but I don't know. I didn't have a ton of problems with it, honestly. I mean, you can use some sweat and grab some rosin and typically be okay. Be interesting to see what happens in April when we get a 35-day in Boston or New York, because it's going to happen, or when you go to Minnesota and it's 28 and snowing, and you're gripping a cue ball to kind of see how that goes. But it is what it is. I mean, everybody's playing by the same rules, so everybody's going to be dealing with the same issue, trying to figure out ways to work with what we got now, and frankly, that's what we got to do.
Matt, you mentioned earlier that you felt a responsibility, as the last line of defense, and maybe that wore on you a little. Did you reach out to anyone to sort of address that mental side of it? I don't know if you were friendly with Daniel Bard, anybody like that who's been through that mental side of it.
Yeah, I do know Dan. I didn't talk to him about any of that. I mean, we've got a really good in-house mental program with the coaches and everybody. So definitely sat down and talked with them about some of that, things that were going on. How do we get back? How do you get back to this kind of aggressive attack mode? Like I said, it's easy to be all giddy and aggressive and go out there with the most confidence in the world when you're competing at a level that, right, is really good. But then when you go out there, and I mean, I remember talking to Bushy, and you know what? Sometimes stuff just happens because it's baseball. I remember going out there, and guys were hitting like 570 off my fastball in August. I'd go out there and throw BP to guys, and they wouldn't hit 570 off a fastball, right? Like, sometimes baseball just kicks you, and that's what it is, right? Now, other times, it's a lot of stuff that you're doing. Mechanically, the ball's not coming out the same. You don't have the same velocity. Maybe just the aggression in your attack because you're starting to get hit around is a little bit different, right? There's a ton of different combinations and variables that kind of go into all of this. But yeah, I mean, I talked with some of the guys in there with the coaching staff, and everybody was great. And you know, unfortunately, I didn't get to continue to pitch into the postseason, but I thought we made a ton of really great strides. Even particularly in Houston, we were setting stuff up and stuff was starting to come out really great. Fortunately, a little too late, but it was a really nice note to go into the offseason on, knowing that we'd accomplished some really, really good stuff, getting back to what that was.
Do you think UConn can win both the men's and the ladies tournament this year?
Even if I didn't, do you think I would say no?
Now that you want to go back to
No, I think they're really good. I mean, I watched the game the other night against Villanova. I think UConn's got a really good team. I think the women have a chance to win it every single year, frankly. So I do. I think both teams are good. I think Gino obviously speaks for who he is, and I think Dan is doing a great job there too. So it's going to be exciting to watch.
you like Paige?
Yeah, everybody on the team is an asset. I mean, Paige, getting her back is obviously a huge win for them.
Thank you, sir.
What all chalk with your bracket?
You what?
All chalk with your bracket?
I don't know. I gotta sit down and look. I got him sitting over there. I gotta sit down and look at him, figure out what we got going on. You know.
Thanks, sir.
So awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're all